All righty, gang, here we go. We got a good one for you today, like I always say, but today's just a little bit better than the rest. It's the history of sport fishing. We got Michael Folks, as always, as my co-host on Tuesdays. We can't do any of this, though, without the support of Promar, so I want to thank Promar and Ahi for all the support, and today we're going to show you a little bit of cool products from Promar a little bit later on in the show, but Promar's always there for us and been a big supporter of Your Saltwater Guide since the very beginning. So thank you, everyone at Promar. And then my special guest with me and Michael today is my good friend, my longtime buddy, my hero, my big brother, Bob Lorman's joining us today. Hey, Bobby, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Bob. Nice to see you.
Glad to be here.
And Bob and I go back to when I was born. Bob's been there since I was born. It's pretty amazing. I was born in 1962, and Bob was with my family since 1960. So pretty incredible journey. Bob's biggest joke he loves to tell everybody is he used to change my diapers. So, yeah, we're going to get going here today. Michael kind of has a little bit of history of Bob Lorman. Him and Bob kind of worked together a little bit on the waters in San Diego back in the day, but we go way back, all three of us. And Michael and Bob are kind of like my heroes growing up, and I'm kind of happy to be sitting here with the two of them talking to them today. But let's get into this, Michael. Let's take it all the way back, Bob, to how you got down to San Clemente. Now, Bob's been working with my family since 1960, so we're going to take it all the way back to how did you get to San Clemente and to the San Clemente Pier, Bob?
I lived in Pomona at the time, and my folks finally moved out here when I was 12 years old, and I was fishing on the pier, just the hand line, the green hand line, catching queenfish and perch or whatever on the Lucky Joe. I mean, it's kind of the same story of a lot of guys, that are in the industry. But, my dream was to get on one of those sport fishing boats one day. And it just worked out that I had a school friend that was friends with your dad, his family. And I told Don that, I'd do anything to get on the boat. When I was 13. He says, well, come down every day after school, scrub the boat, and maybe I'll give you a job. So I did that. I came down every day out to the moorings, back and forth in the skiff. I learned how to drive the skiff when I was 13. We kept the boats on the moorings, so we had a skiff. We went back and forth to the boats. And he gave me a job. He said, go get a work permit. And when I was 14, I went and got the work permit. And I remember Nelson Cook was the owner of the landing. And he looked at my work permit and he goes, 20 hours a week, kid. That's not going to get you much. So, he was right. I'm working a double half day at 14 years old. And what is that? At least 14 hours a day. And I'd fall asleep on my dinner plate at night, my mom said. And of course, I couldn't wait to get up at 4:30 in the morning to do it all over again.
Yeah, me too. Same thing on the Westerner there, Newport.
But let's slow down a little bit. Let's go back. Okay. A lot of people didn't grasp what you said. 13 years old, showing up every day after school to the San Clemente Pier to clean the boat for how much did you get paid?
I didn't get paid for that.
Zero.
Yeah.
Gang, can you imagine? I mean, I'm trying to get these children today to wrap their head around. You didn't get paid anything. Why did you go every day? What was the drive?
Oh, I just loved being on the water, loved being part of the whole thing. That whole thing out there was a family. I mean, everybody interacted. I did get paid. I got paid one day. I got thrown a 50-cent piece. I remember that. I'll never forget it. It was skipped across the deck and hit the stern bulkhead, and it was one of those Lady Liberty 50-cent pieces. I tell the crew on the Sun Fun all the time about that. I said, right here is where my 50-cent piece landed when I was 13.
And I just want people to slow down a second and try to wrap your head around this. The real reason why was because you had a friend and Steve Murray and you got lucky enough to meet my father's through Steve Murray, but you wanted to go out on those boats, right? You wanted to go out on those boats. And you said it real quick, and I just want people to grasp this. This is what it was like back in the day. And Michael and I, we've had a lot of people on the show telling the same exact story, Bob.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you were the Prince son. No, same thing. clean the boat. My greatest accomplishment was clean the rent rods. I started out even before than Bob did. I had to clean the rent rods every day. But back in those days, we rented.
Dave, your audio just popped out.
Did it?
Yeah, that's back. It's back now.
Oh, back in the day, I had to clean the rent rods, but Bob got to go out on the boat. Now listen, we're going so fast here. I just want you to understand the boats were on mooring cans, like you have the mooring cans at Catalina, right, Bob? Explain that to everybody.
Well, that's kind of what gelled everybody together. I mean, in the morning, the 5 o'clock boat, the skiff was stored under the pier. We had a big crane on the pier that picked it up in a giant ladder that we went down to the water. We'd lower the skiff. The first crew would lower the skiff, and they'd go out to the mooring and get on the boat and tie the skiff up to the mooring, and then they'd come back in, pick up their passengers, and then they'd pick up the next crew. The next boat was at 6 o'clock. The next six o'clock half day boat, and we'd just rotate like that. We'd go out to the next boat. We'd go rub rail to rub rail, drop the crew off, and come back in and pick our passengers up. So the moorings were probably a quarter of a mile off the end of the pier, and so that's what we did, back and forth. And then we let the skiff on the mooring for the first boat to come back in. The all-day boat or three-quarter-day boat would come back in, grab the skiff, come in, and we'd reverse it all back again. But everybody was, we talked to each other all the time because we were riding out to the moorings together, and it was quite the deal. It was all a family. The whole system out there was family. There's a restaurant on the pier, the galley restaurant. We helped those guys out. Sometimes we did dishes before I got called in to do dishes when they were busy. But and then the tackle shop on the end of the pier, the tackle shop at the base of the pier, it was all family. The bait company, everybody partied together. It was quite the deal. It was like my second family.
And as a little guy, 13 years old, when the boat would come in, all the people would get off. Then you got to come down and get on the boat and go out to the mooring can, right?
Yeah. And always, while I was cleaning, I always had a bait on the bottom.
Yeah.
Catching a halibut or whatever bit.
That's what I wanted everyone to understand. So exciting to go work for free. But you didn't even think about money, right? That wasn't even part of the driving thing. It didn't even matter.
No.
Michael, you want to get on that boat with your heroes.
I did the same thing, Bob, growing up in Newport on the Westerner. After school every day, over cleaning the skiffs every day after school, clean all the skiffs. And I had rental skiffs at the time, so I'd clean all the skiffs. The boat would come in, I'd help them clean the boat, and then on weekends I'd get to go out and fish with them.
What year was that, Michael?
I want to say 1959, 60.
Okay.
I was 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
No work permits, no nothing, no payment, no paperwork. Just show up, do the job, and you go come fish on the weekends. It was I loved it. I would take the fillets home. I'd fillet out the bonita and take them home and walk them around the neighborhood and sell them for 25 cents a piece. So I had a whole bunch of neighborhood families that were waiting for me every Saturday afternoon and every Sunday afternoon for their annual weekly fish fry.
What did it cost for your commercial license then?
Yeah. What? I know. Paper out. I'm just ordering fish instead of newspaper.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It's amazing. I mean, it was like probably at least 2 or 3 years like that with no pay, just getting a chance to be on the boat.
Yeah.
Getting a chance to fish.
Yeah, when I got my work permit at 14, it was $6 a day.
$6 a day.
Yeah.
You were making bank.
I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I always had money.
I mean,
John Stanley wanted to know something though. It's the same pier. It's been redone a couple of times. 83, it all fell down, but it was probably another 150, 200 feet longer back in the day, Bob, and had a restaurant and a tackle shop and a ticket booth on the end of it back in the day.
And they had bait in that pier too, didn't they? Live bait.
What was it?
Did they have live bait on the pier too?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. They'd run Bob Hart had a bait tank up on top there, and you sell the anchovies for 5 cents each.
Yeah, and you get your little tickets for 5 cents a piece.
For an anchovy.
Bait tickets, yep. 5 cents for an anchovy.
Yeah.
And if you go out on the pier right now, Bob's partner, Kenny Nielsen, and my dad both have a picnic bench on the end of the pier dedicated to both of those guys, because that's where it all started, right, Bob?
Right. Yeah, that was quite an honor for the city to do that. They're concrete picnic benches, and they're inscribed with their name and when they were born, when they passed away. Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Cool.
And thank you, John Stanley, for asking that. And I appreciate those pictures you and Tina took when you were out on the pier showing the bench and the table. It's a pretty cool thing, gang. If you stumble onto the San Clemente Pier, you kind of get a feel as you're walking out there of what Bob's talking about right now, what it was like as kids growing up there. It was a pretty special time to be alive in San Clemente.
It was a special time to be alive in Southern California, period. I mean, it was paradise. I don't think we knew how good it was. How good it is still, but back in the day, it was just so pure, so much innocence.
It really was. I mean, it's so emotional for a lot of people to remember that time of their life. Donna, Dave's sister, put on it's probably been 25 years ago, put a reunion for the pier people. And there was guys that flew in from all over the U.S. that used to work on the pier. And there's guys up there they're crying because they remembered it was so special.
It was. I mean, my childhood memories of that time it's nothing but nothing but Norman Rockwell paintings.
Yeah.
It was just it was amazing. I mean, leopard sharks in the bay, and just an abundance of fish, and just everybody's energy was just good, or we were just ignorant. I don't know which, but maybe a combination of both.
No, it was really special, and I think what was really special for me is, I'm 14 years old, and they're kind of treating me as an equal. These adult deckhands and skippers and everything else. I just kind of kept my mouth shut and worked hard. So they respected that, and they took me everywhere. When they went on vacation, they took me hunting or fishing, wherever they went. So my mentors were, at 14, were in their 20s. Don was running, I worked with Don on the sump fund, and I calculated out, he was 27 years old when I was 14. So he was my hero.
He was an old man.
Yeah, for sure.
27, a 14-year-old.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing if you keep your mouth shut and you do your job.
Yeah.
How much respect you gain from people.
Absolutely.
No flopping your jaw. Just get the job done and shut up.
My grandson's kind of like that. He's very quiet, and he works at the Wharf now, Dana Wharf now, in the office. And when Don was still alive, I called him up. I said, "You're not going to believe this, Don." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "And I started working for you full time when I was 14, and my grandson just went in, and Donna gave him a job. He's 14 years old. It's been 60 years."
That is so cool.
Yeah.
My nephew, Max Dickinson, was working down there too. He started in the office and then got up on one of the boats, and just probably 2 of the best years of his life was working the boats and working down there for Donna.
Yeah.
There's just something about it. There's, people ask me all the time about, having a career in the fishing business. And it's tough because it really, you just have to earn it. You just have to want it and figure out a way to get in.
Yeah.
And like you said, showing up every day after school and scrubbing that boat for a year before they said, "Hey, come on out and go fish with us."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Don just treated me right, and I did just exactly what you said, Michael. I worked my way up. I went all summers. I would come back. I'd either be second deck or whatever when I got out of high school. Then I was first deck on the Clemente, and then I got drafted into the Army when I was 19. And when I came back from Vietnam, he gave me a job. I mean, these military guys have really hard time transitioning. from the service back into the work field, and it was really special for him to give me a job, and not only to give me a job, but he said, go get your license. And when I got my license, he gave me the best boat in the fleet. He gave me the Clemente on a 3/4 day run.
Oh, great picture.
Yeah.
Great pictures. Jeez.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Another thing about the pier, Bob, I love the story of you and Kenny. You guys became best of friends all the way till the very end. But you guys, what a magical time growing up on the San Clemente Pier. And you guys were together for, gosh, forever. Forever. Everyone, if you saw Bob, you looked for Kenny. Or if you saw Kenny, you always look, where's Bob? It was just the way it was. It was Bob and Kenny or Kenny and Bob. That's how it always was growing up for me anyway as a kid. I remember you guys coming over to the house when I was little, bringing lobsters and abalone. And you guys were the divers. You guys were like Jacques Cousteau. You guys saw all the cool stuff. I'm just saying, as a little kid, watching you guys show up to my dad's house all the time. And you have so many great stories from the pier. I just want to get into a few of them if you could share with us. As kids, before you got drafted, before you left, you and Kenny were like unbelievable divers, just getting to see some of the coolest stuff, right?
Oh yeah. We were free divers. I think we started free diving when we were 14 or 15, and then when we were 16, both of us got certified with tanks. And then your dad bought me the full set of gear. I thought he was the best ever, but he had a ulterior motive. I had to go get all his anchors back that he lost in the reefs. But he bought me a wetsuit, and he bought me a tank that was a converted fire extinguisher. And but that was really special. So and then we had the skiff that went back and forth. So Kenny and I just take the skiff that we used to go back and forth with moorings, go to West Reef and load up on abalone and lobsters or whatever else we could get. But no, it was really special. And diving was just over the top. The abalone were just stacked solid.
They were stacked, weren't they?
Yeah, and lobsters, whatever. But no, I wasn't a surfer. I was a diver, and I carried that all through my life. When I went to the sheriff's department, I started the dive team in 1975 and stayed on that team for 25 years.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
And then,
in fact, Michael, I dove on the Westerner when it sunk.
Did you really?
Yeah. We went. Yeah.
That was my boat.
Yeah, I know it was.
I love that boat.
And then you guys got to go and watch them build Dana Point Harbor. And that was like gang, growing up in San Clemente, to go to Dana Point was like a long range trip, right, Bob? It was a big deal to go all the way up to Dana Point because you were in Magic Land at San Clemente with West Reef and Pochi and Barge Rock and all those San Mateo, San Onofre. Oh, yeah. Going north was a big deal, huh?
I didn't even go north. No need. No need. Everything was at Seal Rock and West Reef, and we didn't need to go anywhere else. It was pretty consolidated right there. It was amazing stuff. Wide open calico bass fishing right off that kelp bed right off the end of the pier. The fishing game made an artificial reef like a horseshoe around the end of the San Clemente Pier in the mid '60s, so to enhance the fishing and all that. But no, it was. You can't explain to people how good the fishing was.
And then, as you guys, because I know when I was a kid, my dad took me up there at the gazebo up in Dana Point, and he told me that there's going to be a harbor here. Now, I grew up on the pier, so a harbor, I didn't understand it. I'd never been to Newport Harbor. I'd never been to LA. I'd never been down to Oceanside. I'd never seen a harbor, so I didn't really know what a harbor was. And then as they started dumping the rocks and seeing those rock trucks coming from the desert and bringing those rocks in, what was it like for you, Bob? We never talked about this. For you and Kenny, you guys got to kind of be there for the whole thing.
Yeah, we were really actually upset about it because that was during that time, by the time we did that, that was a dive spot for us. So the surfers were upset, the divers were upset that they were going to close off this whole area of Killer Dana and all that area that we loved and fished and everything else. But as it turned out, ended up being a good thing for us. We were able to have a business there with the offshore research work and the environmental work. But it was a lot of the construction was going on when I was in Vietnam. So I was there from 67 to 69. So when I came back, the East Jetty was already built, but they were just finishing up the West Jetty and the basins. So yeah, it was kind of a shocker.
Yeah, it's a great surf spot there at the base of that hill.
Yeah,
great surf spot. Such a sweet break.
Yeah, Killer Dana and Doheny, it pretty much shut all that off. Yep. But the people are able to share the experience of the ocean by having that harbor there. So it's good and bad.
It's definitely something most people are watching the show don't even know that there was a time where there wasn't a Dana Point Harbor, gang, and we were kids growing up down there. It was kind of a magical place, and I want to get into the stories of you and Kenny getting those lobsters and abalone out of the harbor. That's a phenomenal story. But real quick, before we get going on that, gang, it is Promar Ahi Tuesday. We're going to show you the Akara jig real quick. I've showed you this a couple of times. So I want you to see it one more time. We'll have a brand new lure that we're going to show you next week. But check out this Akara jig, and you can save 15% off on this. And check it out real quick. Watch this, and then we'll come right back to talk more about Dana Point Harbor, and then we're going to move along with Kenny or with Bobby about what him and Kenny were doing after the harbor got built. All right, gang, your saltwater guide, Dave Hansen. We're out here at the ICAST show with Promar, and they just introduced their new series of the Akara jig. Now, you've seen me use this Akara jig in Alaska, down in Cabo, and all over the place in Southern California. Now, what is really cool, they've stepped it up. We have the 170 gram Akara, and we have the 130 gram, which is gonna be great for fishing in Southern California for that deep water rockfish. But the really cool thing about it, over here in Florida, they're using these things on those deeper reefs, the 100, 120 foot reefs, catching snapper, catching Goliath groupers, catching great barracuda. Why do I know that? Because everyone's showing me all the pictures of all the fish they're catching. The 170 grams is gonna get you straight to the bottom, which is the most important thing. Then once it gets down there, you do the slow pitch where you lift the rod tip up and let it flutter down slowly. These things are insane. The reaction bite is incredible. You will not be disappointed if you try these in the slow pitch jigging. That is sweeping the nation. So check out the Akara jig in the 130 and the 170 gram. You will not be disappointed. All right, so Bob, back to the harbor, back to what was going on. So you and Kenny got kind of thrown down into the harbor to remove all the animals that were in the harbor. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, in the two basins, how they finished the basins is they dammed off the entrances to each one, and they completely pumped out the basins. So it was dry. They were able to bring bulldozers and all that in. So when they dammed it off, they pumped it out, and all the animals, they had all these people that came down. We kind of coordinated the people, showed them how to take abalone off the rocks and all that kind of stuff, and put them in the bags. And then there was a boat on the outside that took them all out to the outside of the jetties and placed all the abalone and whatever else we could find. We just kind of scavenged for whatever we could get, and so they didn't die before the bulldozers came in to dredge out the basins and build all the seawalls.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was quite a project.
Yeah, huge.
And to think of that back in the 1969, 70, 71, to do all that kind of stuff, you couldn't even do it today if you wanted to with all the regulations, but you guys pulled it off back then, and everything was fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great attempt at salvaging anything before it died. Of course, there was some stuff that went by the wayside, but can you imagine walking around on a reef, that's been underwater for 20 feet of water for forever, and
1,000 years.
Yeah, and looking under every crack and crevice and seeing all this stuff as you walk. You know, you're not diving, you're walking through dry.
Spiny urchins and everything else, huh?
Yeah, everything that we could possibly pick out of there, we put in different bags and crates, you know, with water in it, and then handed it off to the people on the other side, and they ran it out to the outside the harbor.
And then, Michael, you know what they did? Bob told me all this. We had this trip where Bob and I took that Hatteras I used to drive home from Cabo, and we were just sat in the wheelhouse and told stories for 20 hours a day. And he told me then, and I didn't even know this, after they got all the stuff out of there, they used dynamite and blew all those rocks up. Could you imagine what that must have looked like?
Oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
So, what were they blowing up with the dynamite, Bob?
Oh, the reefs. You know, I mean, the big reefs that was all dive area, so it was all rock, and so they moved some of it with explosives.
It's just so crazy to think of that. You could never do that today, but no problem, just blowing the heck out of stuff. Yeah. Just such a crazy time to grow up as kids, right?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. You know, by that time I don't know how old I was. I was 20, 21, but I think yeah, something like that.
And we kind of skipped over real quick. So you were drafted and you served time in Vietnam, and I thank you very much for time served over there. And Michael,
sir,
pretty amazing. You were one of the only guys. You and George Clough, right, got drafted. You were the guys from the San Clemente Pier days that got drafted and went over there, and you both got to come home, which
it's amazing.
Both of you got to come home, which is pretty amazing at that.
Yeah.
And then you come home, and like you said, and we started talking about, but I wanted to set you back, and we talked about it now for 20 minutes about growing up down there. But you came back from Vietnam, and you talked to my old man, and he made you babysit me and my brother and my little sister and answer the telephones, right?
Oh yeah. Well, your sister wasn't born yet.
Oh, that's right. She wasn't even here yet.
No. I was in shock when your dad said that your mom was going to have another kid. That was Donna. No, yeah, I babysat both of these jackasses, Michael and David. So we've told this story before, you know. I'm babysitting. These guys are running around like wild Indians, and I have the reservation. I'm taking reservations. You know, they plug in the phone for reservations, so I'm taking that, and these guys are going crazy. I can't hear on the phone. So as we're coming back from the ridge, when we were on telling stories back and forth, Dave says to me, he goes, "You know, you traumatized me as a child." And I go, "What? What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, we were yelling and screaming, and you were on the phone, and you said, if you don't stop yelling and screaming, I'm gonna spread your guts on the wall. I just got back from Vietnam, and if you don't behave, I'm gonna spread your guts on you." And then David said he hid under the bed until his mom and dad got home.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget it. It was.
I think he believed you.
It was a visual I had. That's for damn sure. And
I didn't remember it. I don't remember ever saying something like that. But I guess if you were traumatized, I guess I said it.
I bring out the best in everyone, Bob. I always have.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So then you come back and you're answering the phones, and then you get your captain's license, and my dad put you in charge of the finest boat in the fleet, which is still running today. We just got to do Don Hansen Day. There was 30 of my friends that are on here right now watching the show, Lisa and Darren and Brett and John Stanley, and they all got to fish with you, Bob, on the Clemente. And it was really like coming back home for me, because I want Michael, folks, something that I talked to Bob about on this delivery too was I never really thought about it, but you know what Bob and George and Ray Dwayne and the guys that worked for my dad back in the day had to do every day? It sucked to get up at 3:00 in the morning and go to work anyways. But to get up at that time in the morning, then go the opposite way, because my father's house was in the south end of San Clemente, and you'd have to get up, leave your house, which was a minute away from the pier, drive to the south end of San Clemente, pick up this snot-nosed little kid, because I had to go with them for the day because they had to babysit me. Right?
Yeah. Whatever the boss says, we got to do. So we had to pick you up.
Yep.
I think back to those days now that I'm a grown up with kids and grandkids, and I go, God, that must have I could imagine what was going through their heads back then. They had so much work to do. They got to go pick up the snot-nosed brat
kid, right?
The boss's kid. Looks like Bob just got a phone call.
Sorry.
There he's back. All right. So now you're running the Clemente off the San Clemente Pier. What was that like? Do you hear us? Bob, I told you that would happen when you took the phone call. Yep. When you take the phone call, the volume goes off, Michael.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Pretty amazing stories, though, right?
I love it. There, Bob. I love Josh, too. He just said 2 for Tuesdays. I love it.
There you are. Can you hear us now, Bob?
I got it.
Okay. Here, I'm going to get you back to the...
There you go.
There. Yeah, you need to be on the top.
Okay. I guess. Okay.
So did you run the Clemente off the pier or just in Dana Point?
No, I ran it 2 years off the pier. Yeah. And then 2 years in the harbor.
So boy, that getting on board and off the boat, going down those wooden steps, and that surge. I mean, I can't even. I've seen video of it. I just can't imagine that was a daily activity. That you got 30, 40, 50, 60 people on the boat at 5 in the morning when there was a surge like that, and then come in the afternoon and there's probably even a bigger swell, and you're getting offloaded, and the boat's doing this, and people are jumping from the rail. I mean, it's crazy to think about. What
it was actually pretty organized. You know, I mean, we called it when the swell was probably 6 or 8 feet. You know, but when you come you come alongside we come alongside the pier, and then there's a spring line, a cable spring line, and we hook up. You know, it'd be a big loop on the cable, and that would be attached to big springs and tires underneath the pier to absorb the shock. And you put one engine in forward and the other one in reverse, and then just push yourself up against the pier. And then when a swell would come, we'd put both engines in gear and ride up over the swell, and then slam it into reverse when you come off the swell, and then work that through until you got a lull, and then you're still attached to the pier, and then you continue to pick up the people. So the people came down a set of stairs, they came to a platform, and then they came to a ramp that was probably about 30 feet long. And the ramp was controlled by a chain hoist, an electric chain hoist. And as the swells come, you got to real quick, these lines that you could bring it up or down. And if you weren't fast enough and the people weren't fast enough to back up, the people would get wet up to their waist when the swell came through.
What a way to start a trip at 5 in the morning getting douched.
Oh yeah, that happened all the time. And and then we'd have 2 guys, on put their legs around the handrail, and we 2 guys on the boat to help the passengers on, 2 guys on the ramp. So you grab them by their arms and then pass them over with all their gear and all their gear in hand, and pick up your 60 people and be on your way.
It's crazy. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that today?
No insurance company would insure you, I'm sure.
Nobody'd even touch you.
No.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The minute you grab somebody, they would be screaming bloody murder, and you had to grab them and throw them on the boat, Bob, right? No hesitation.
No, nobody said anything. They were stoked to get on the boat. They didn't even complain when they got wet. So it was, of course, you got wet too. When you're helping them, if you were on the ramp, you got wet up to your whatever
chest.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it was good times.
Different times, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
Different
something
times.
else that people don't remember, Michael, is they only fished in the summertime in Southern California, and off the pier anyway. The boats went and mothballed back in the back of Newport or Oceanside Harbor during the winter. There was no winter time, nothing, right, Bob?
yeah. April to, I think, October 1st.
Yeah, through September.
Yeah, that was our season pretty much. And then we'd go to either San Diego or I don't think we ever did Newport. We either keep them in Long Beach or keep them in San Diego. And then when we do the maintenance, we have to drive back and forth every day, doing the maintenance, painting and hauling and all that.
Yeah, it's like you said, it was a family and it was a lifestyle that's unmatched.
Yeah, it was really, really special for me.
Yeah. And talk about how magical it was when they started the Dana Point Harbor Patrol, Bob, and you were approached and asked, well, our good friend, God rest his soul, Gene Stivers, he was like one of the first guys to get in there, right? As one of the Harbor Patrol guys. They took lifeguards and watermen, right? There was none of this. You didn't go to the academy, right?
No, I went to an academy, but they, at that time, I got hired on there in 1973. And I was running the Clemente, and this guy comes up into the wheelhouse, and that was Tony Spagnolini, as I find out later. And we were talking, and he said, I said, oh, I got to do some maintenance on the boat again. I got to change some pumps and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, hey, I was thinking about going to the Harbor Patrol. He goes, you get on those boats, you don't even have to check the oil. You just jump on them and drive. And I go, that might be a good idea. I had gotten a lecture from my peers about this, this sport fishing stuff is you need to find something with security and a retirement and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them went to, a phone company or other places to get some kind of a benefits, And so anyway, they had 400 take the test, and they hired 4 out of that, and I was lucky enough to be hired. And it was the harbors, beaches, and parks then, but you wore Sheriff's Department uniform. And then in 1975, the Sheriff's Department actually took over. So from then on, we were deputy sheriffs. But what David was saying in the beginning, it was only people with licenses or water people like lifeguards, people that knew the ocean, had some sea sense. After that, it was kind of a rotation from the jail or other units of the Sheriff's Department.
You were 1 out of 400. 4 out of 400.
Yeah. 4 out of 400.
You're 1 out of 4. Jeez.
Well, that's a story too, because the guy that was doing the interviewing was a friend of the guy that owned the tackle shop, and so I got a really good recommendation from the guy that owned the tackle shop. So it all kind of came full circle.
That's so cool.
And that really, it's kind of who you know and pass the test. But that was a big leg up by having that good recommendation from the fishing industry.
Well, you earned it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it was special.
Yeah.
And at that same time, because of the workaholic that you are, you decided to start commercial fishing lobsters too, right?
Yeah. That kind of evolved. I think I've told that story before. I was up in
Not
the office.
on this show. Not on this show.
Well, I was in the office working, in the Harbor Patrol, and this guy comes up to the office and he goes, anybody that's got a boat? And I go, what do you got in mind? And he goes, well, I need a boat to take water samples in the harbor. and I go, well, I've got a 16-foot skiff with a 40-horse outboard on it. And he goes, that's perfect. So I ended up doing that for the sanitation district, and he goes, how about $20? And I go, yeah, that sounds good. That's what I was paying your dad to keep my boat at the wharf, $20 a month. So I thought, I'll pay the slip fee. But anyway, I did that, and then they built the pipe out farther, and he said, well, we're going to need a bigger boat with some kind of navigation. So we built an 18-foot skiff and put a Loran C on it so we could tell where we were, and we take these water samples around the ocean outfall for the sanitation district. And so that's how it all evolved. Our business just grew and grew and grew. And we had that skiff to take these water samples once a month and go, well, we got to do something with it besides that. So that's when we started fishing lobsters out of that skiff.
Very cool.
And we did that for 25 years. And then this research in offshore stuff became so heavy that we eventually had to get out of that and do it full time with the environmental work. We were doing all the sampling. Yeah, that's the early version. That's the one we have now working that was in San Diego a while back. And then so we just started working all up and down the coast from Santa Barbara to the Mexican border with the bigger boats. And like we were talking earlier, Michael, we did the Exxon Valdez when it came in.
That's when I met Kenny. I was running the 6-pack boat down there, and he was doing the Exxon Valdez samples twice a day. He was making more money in one run than I'd make in a week.
Yeah, we made a lot of money on that deal. We were able to buy a bigger boat. And
very good. Yep.
And then, when's this picture? What were you doing here?
That was the first year that I ran the Clemente, and that's the only picture I found. And that was an albacore that I don't know how I ended up with that. I think it was taken home by parents or something. But Budweiser and albacore, they go together.
What a great picture! Such a great shot.
You know, notice the topsiders. Everybody that was cool had topsiders, right, Michael?
Yep. They were definitely the shoe.
When I remember when I was in the Army and I was wearing those things, and these guys from South Carolina going, "What are you doing wearing bowling shoes?"
They did. They looked like bowling shoes, didn't they? Very topsiders.
Yeah.
And that crane right there next to you, that's how they got the skiff up and down, but that's also how they got the fish off the boat every day, right? In a big giant net?
No. That was only for the skiff. And then over by the office where the boats came alongside, then we had a small davit and an electric motor. So we had a cargo net they spread and put all the sacks of fish in the cargo net and then lifted it up and then into a truck. And then for a while I had that job of selling tickets in the office and running the fish truck up to the parking lot with it, because all the people had to walk back to the parking lot. So we'd carry their fish in the truck and then I distributed it to them when they got to the parking lot.
And that's when my dad told that story. If you guys go and look at it on the YouTube channel, when I interviewed my father, his very first job he ever had was before the cart, before all that stuff. He used to bring his little red wagon down to the end of the San Clemente Pier and cart the fish off the end of the pier for a quarter a wagon load. So this whole fishing thing is deep in our blood, all three of us here. And it's kind of the way we were raised, and it's kind of what it's been all about since we were little kids. We can't wait to do it. And you just got back from a big trip, Bob. You just went on a long range trip. And I mean, you're still in this thing as deep as you could possibly be, right?
Yeah, I'm still 78 years old and stay at the rail the whole trip.
Look at what he caught, Michael.
That is a hefty looking sea bass.
Yeah, that was a 51 pound sea bass at night.
Yeah, it's a sweet looking.
But yeah, I've been going with Roger Healy, another lobster fisherman, for the last 10 years on the American Angler out of San Diego.
How far down were you down on that fish?
We were at the Ridge.
Okay.
We were on the 13 when we had that. What was really interesting, Michael, is that during the day the big pargo were up breezing. Just a red acre of breezing 10 or 15 pound pargo.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and they're up there just moving super slow. Their fins are out of the water, and they're just munching on red crab.
Oh my God!
So we catch one or two or snag one, like that. But that night that I had that sea bass, it was full speed on those things. I bet we caught 100.
Really?
Of those big pargo, yeah, big red, beautiful fish, delicious.
Delicious,
yeah.
Nothing much better than a sea bass, though.
Yeah, no, that was a nice fish. I think we had 5 that night.
Nice. That's a sweet fish. Hey, I remember when I was a kid, I used to walk around the parking lot after everybody left, collecting the gunny sacks that the guys would put their put their fish in their ice coolers or whatever, and then just throw the gunny sack on the ground. 25 cents a piece. You know.
Oh, for the bags.
Used gunny sacks. Yep.
Yeah.
That was big money back in the day as kids. Those gunny sacks were gold. That was easy money. Wash them out, hang them up, and
Wash them out, hang them on the rail, and you'd make a couple of bucks. I had a Volkswagen camper, and I filled that camper up it was 16 cents a gallon. Yeah. And so, a half a dozen gunny sacks would fill that camper up for a week.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I know. Yeah. 25 cents. So somebody went to hand me some change the other night. I said, just keep it on.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing with pennies and nickels and quarters?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Tim. I don't know if they still rent skiffs at the Paradise Cove Pier. I don't know.
No.
No,
the pier's closed down and everything. We when we come back from Santa Barbara or Oxnard, we anchor up in Paradise Cove, and nothing's going on there.
Okay.
But fishing's really good. We fish at night when it was really good. Catch sea bass and put lots of black sea bass. We let go, but it was good, really good. Nobody's up there.
And Bob, as you grew up in this industry, you've been in the industry for, let's just say 70 years, because you kind of been in it since you were a baby. Would you say in the last 10 years, this fishing's better than anything you've ever seen in the whole time you've been working in this industry? Or what do you say about what's going on today compared to what it was like back in the 60s and 70s on the pier?
Well, the beach fishing isn't what it was. There's no doubt about that, and we've talked about that a little bit. But the offshore fishing is just off the hook. I mean, it's the best it's ever been. I mean, we've got 10 years of bluefin now, and we did have some good fish. We just didn't fish offshore from San Clemente Pier. Very, very seldom. It was all local stuff. If you didn't have limits of barracuda and bass, and whoever wanted to keep the bonita. Of course, it had a bad name there from sitting in the sack all day, but it was phenomenal. I mean, and once in a while we'd go offshore when we heard there was something going on. And my best story with your dad is I was working the double half day and on the sump fund, and he said in the afternoon, he said, "Oh, I heard there's some albacore outside. We'll go take a look." We had 24, 25 people. And we went out there 5 miles off the beach. We could still see the end of the pier, and we got to stop. We stayed in for 4 hours, and we had 197 fish.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
4 miles off the beach.
5 miles probably.
5 miles off the beach.
Yeah. I could see the end of the pier with a big fish on the restaurant, big red fish. I could still see that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
Albacore fever.
Yeah.
They're such a spectacular fish. I love them.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been a while on those babies, but they've been replaced by the bluefin and the yellowfin and the wahoo now and then, and it's pretty spectacular offshore stuff.
Yeah. I think it's the best bluefin fishing we've had in history. I mean, back in the 80s, 1880s and early 1900s, there was phenomenal bluefin fishing, but I think this is a 100-year cycle, if anything. And it's just I don't think we've ever seen the size of bluefin that we've seen.
No, we catch those little footballs, every now and then, while we're fishing the kelp or whatever. I think I caught the last one. I went out on the Seahorse. How many years ago that's been? Like, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago. But we were at Salt Creek, anchored at Salt Creek, and I saw these fish come up. I just happened to have a blue and white jig, and I threw that thing in the middle of them, and I think I caught the last bluefin on the beach that I know of.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Bluefin while you're anchored up on the beach, fishing the kelps.
Yeah. And that used to happen quite a bit. They'd come through, but they were real touchy. You'd use an 8 hook and 10-pound leader or something because they were so touchy. But you did catch some.
10-pound leader.
Yeah.
And 8. That hook's this big.
Yeah, just a tiny little size 8.
Yep.
So if you look right behind Michael, Bob. He's got like a museum there at his house, and
I saw that.
a lot of this stuff, you and I will go up there when I'm back in town. We'll go to Michael's house, but a lot of that stuff that you're going to see in there, that was the stuff that Bob Hart had. That that we used to go in there and stand and stare at it in his little office on the end of the pier and just wish. Michael has all that stuff in his house, in the pictures and the leaders and all that stuff that we grew up looking at. And he's got some of those little the drop what do we call it?
Drop lines, the green drop
lines that we grew up all fishing on the pier with, the yellow ones with the green background.
Green background, yellow plastic line.
Yep, that was my go-to thing. That was my Lucky Joe outfit.
Me too. Go ahead, Dick.
Red and yellow yarn and a chrome torpedo sinker with a treble hook on the end of it. That was it.
That's it. That's the old time Saviki.
Yep.
We catch anything.
My fishing buddy I grew up with when I was 9. We would go to the liquor store and get empty cigar boxes and then glue cardboard dividers into it. That would be our tackle box, was a cardboard cigar box with dividers in it. And then at night, we each one of us would pick something out of our tackle box and hide it and say, okay, I'm going to trade you something really good. And we'd trade stuff back and forth. And it would take us hours to make one transaction. Or I'd give him something really good. He'd give me something really bad. And I'd go, come on, you owe me. So, but that was our nights. We're just sitting there swapping tackle out of our cigar box tackle boxes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
It was great stuff.
I used to like treasure my Lucky Joes because they cost 25 cents then, something like that. Yep. With a shiny sinker with a treble hook on the end. So in my bedroom, I'd put the treble hook up at the top of the door, and so that the Lucky Joe hung straight, right? And so one time I have this like little Chihuahua something dog, and I hear all this screaming and everything. I go in there, and my Lucky Joe caught my Chihuahua.
Oh no!
He's hook lipped.
Oh God!
Oh no!
Yeah, he was fine. He was fine.
After you got the hook out of him.
Yeah.
Well, something that I don't know if you saw when you're watching because we're coming down. It's hard to believe it's been an hour we've been hanging out talking, but it goes by so fast every Tuesday because we're telling great stories. But something that Michael and I love to end the show on, and Bob, I don't know if you've seen this, but as a veteran, as someone that got to fish with, you and I got to fish together in the War Heroes on Water, and you got to meet a bunch of the vets, and they got to meet you, and you guys have built great relationships because of War Heroes on Water. It's a pretty special event. It's coming up. We're having the kickoff party next Thursday at Anthony Shea's house. And a bunch of the captains are going to get together. Bob, I hope you and your beautiful wife can join us up there. You're invited. Anthony wants you to come. You know that. And we're just going to go hang out at Anthony's house for a couple hours, have the kickoff captain's party at the house. So that'll be on Thursday, the 14th. And then coming up in September on the 20th, War Heroes on Water kickoff again. The tournament starts on the 20th. We'll be having the parade on the 21st. It starts leaving Anthony Shea's house and drive through Newport Harbor with our veterans, and then on our way out for 3 days of frolicking out on the ocean, having the time of our lives. It's a life-changing event, right, Bob?
I was hoping that you'd talk about it a little bit. Last year you invited me to go along as a deckhand, and like you say, I fished with a couple of the veterans, and I've been in contact with them. But I just don't know how we can let people know how special this whole thing is. I mean, it's really been something for me. I mean, I think about it every day, and you kind of set me up at the banquet in the end, and introduced me to this whole group of 300 people at the banquet at the end, and they gave me a standing ovation, and the recognition was. I didn't even know what to say. It just blew my wife away. She just, she burst out in tears, and it was really, really something. I was talking to Anthony about it, and I said I wanted to come back to the banquet, and it won't be exactly the same people, but to thank them for recognizing me at that time, because as a lot of people know, we returned to an ungrateful nation when we came back, and it was really something special. I'm a combat veteran, and all the people at this thing are combat veterans, and they have wounds of the mind and of the body, and it is really something special.
It really is. It's such a tribute. It's such an honor to. It's almost mind-boggling how big it's grown, and how it's touched so many people's lives on such a deep level. You know, like you said, you guys returned home from Vietnam and got spit on. I mean, you were just not. It was not a popular war.
No.
And that, you know, like you said, the internal traumas are probably a lot of times more difficult than the externals to overcome.
The whole thing, Bob, it was, people aren't aware of the love that's out there for the veterans, the people that have served, that have gone to war and seen what it's like, and then to come back and to see what's going on with this organization, Freedom Alliance, and see what they've put together for the veterans, for you, for all veterans that have served, to see that there is actually people that actually appreciate what you guys and gals went and did. That's the number one thing that I've gotten out of it, talking to the guys over the 8 years or 9 years that I've been involved with this thing, is most of the men and women that come back, they have no idea. Like you said, they don't fit in. And now they see that they do, and there's a purpose. And I'm so glad that I got to take you with me and turn you on to that whole thing, because I believe in my heart that you have a story that people need to hear. And I think you're out there sharing it finally, and you're saving lives, Bob. You actually are saving people's lives. And I know, but you don't know until you know.
Yeah, you know, it's true. I mean, it's hard to, I don't know how to explain it. It's hard for the vets when they come back to talk about anything that they've done. And I was silent for probably 40 years, and it's just been recent that you know, I'm in an vet group now, and there's some counseling, and there is help out there for these guys. The VA, I have to say, the VA's really come full circle, and they're really doing a good job. I feel like they're really doing a good job with the transitioning of the vets. And I just happen to go to this because your sister is so involved with the veterans and providing boats, and your dad was always for the 4th Marines, always a proponent for the veterans, and that's carried over to you and your sister and Michael, and it's really special that Dana Wharf does a lot for the veterans, and she just told me to go over to the vet center last year because there was a guy there that she really liked, and I thought, I'll go over and talk to him. So anyway, that's how it all worked out for me, and your family's really been a part of that. And then, of course, Anthony, I mean, I got to give Anthony a huge amount of credit for what he's put together, and with you helping him from the beginning.
It's a pretty amazing event, gang, and you're all invited to come down and celebrate with our parade through the harbor. And the QR code's up there on the screen. If you don't know what the hell we're talking about, grab the QR code. It'll take you for a tour of what War Heroes is all about. And we're always looking for donations. Every penny Anthony made sure goes straight to Freedom Alliance, and they do so much for the veterans and the war heroes that it'll serve you well to be involved with it at any level you can be involved, gang, because you have no idea how many people's lives you change just by being involved. So I wanted to say that, but then I also wanted to say something. I don't know if you've gotten into the whole history of sport fishing. You've watched some of the episodes, but Michael and I love to let you guys all know whenever we have a guest on here, especially a special guest like yourself, Bob. I want you to listen to the story Michael has about how special fishing is. It's kind of what this country was formed based on. The Declaration of Independence was written in the oldest known fishing club in in the free world, right, Michael?
Yes, sir. I mean,
Go ahead. Explain it.
Well, first of all, Bob, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
It was men and women like you that allowed us as a nation to grow the way we have. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your time and service. Not only in Vietnam, but throughout your career as an officer or patrol and sheriff. And you know, what David was alluding to is that back in 1732, in a little town called Philadelphia, located on the Schuylkill River, there was a bunch of guys that fly fished, and they got together and formed this little club called the Schuylkill Fishing Club. And what it was basically an opportunity for them to get together and talk about what it would take to declare our independence from Great Britain. And they had to do it under the secrecy of a fishing club, or they would have been hung for treason. And there were guys like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, John Hancock, some of the guys you might have heard about. They sat there in that club and wrote the Declaration of Independence. And then the Constitution of the United States were written by fishermen, which I never knew. And that was in 1732, all the way up to the time of 1776. So that period in there that was all done under the guise of the Schuylkill Fishing Club. And they called it the Castle. And it still stands today. It's got a big cannon out in front of it. It's got meticulous records. And it's a testament to the fact that, like David was saying, fishing has been in the DNA of America since we can remember the first colonists arriving here. So, you know, it's just it's an unsung hero as far as the sport's concerned, because you don't get 100,000 people in a stadium on any given Sunday or any given weeknight, but you know, there's 1 million people in the water at that same time that are out fishing. So it's a kind of a quiet sport that's woven itself into the fabric of who we are as a nation.
Pretty special, huh, Bob?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's
really awesome.
They don't teach you that in the history books, huh?
No.
No, not at all.
So I want to thank everybody for being with us today. A super special show for me. Yeah, I hope you guys got out of it what I hoped you got out of it, because Bob is a very special person in my life. And I'm glad, Michael, you got to learn a little bit about Bob and
absolutely.
And the rest of you guys that are out there watching. And Bobby, I will see you next week. I'm hoping you and your beautiful wife make it up to the Anthony's house with us. You're invited.
Okay, well, great. Thank you.
And the rest of you, turn off the news. They're all lying. This is the only place you get the truth. We're going to be with you with more truth tomorrow. And one thing I want to leave you all with, we're not out of bait. We're not out of bait. I want you to all take a deep breath. Don't go on social media and post about how it's the end of the world because they don't have bait at a bait barge right now. You got to understand, everybody and their mother's trying to get that one last trip in before the kids go back to school on Thursday. Every boat's full. Fish are biting all up and down the coast. It's called supply and demand. And I know a lot of you own businesses. These bait boats don't run without crews. I don't know if you know how hard it is to find anybody that wants to work today in America, but they're having the same problems all of you business owners are having. But what I don't want you doing is going on social media and posting that there's no bait, because the environmentalists are reading your post and they are going to use that against us this winter when they close live bait fishing down in Southern California. And you guys are giving them all the ammunition they need, and it's going to take a lot of us to fight back all this garbage you're all posting. I'm sorry to leave you with that negative, but you got to stop. Please stop helping them close fishing. I hope the bait companies are seeing those of you that are posting this garbage and they ban you